Peterson's okay, but I don't know much about him. Peterson, I don't want to talk about Peterson because you have to be like, Jesus. Yeah, because you have to do a lot of research and be very, very well equipped to have a discussion about Jordan Peterson because he's very, very good at, um, he's very good at hiding the clear consequences of his speech behind what he claims to consider to be like exclusively descriptive claims. So what he'll do is he'll make a bunch of claims, a bunch of positive claims. So a positive statement is a statement about what is. A normative statement is a statement about what ought to be. He'll make a bunch of statements about what is that almost inevitably lead any human in a vacuum to draw certain conclusions about what ought to be, but then not take responsibility for those normative conclusions. It's like a huge, like, he's like a master dog whistler. So, yeah, I definitely don't want to get into an in-depth discussion about Jordan Peterson because I don't necessarily feel equipped to properly debunk the stuff he says. Later, at the end of a discussion about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at the DNC, the conversation pivoted to the Democratic Party. And it's good. You should have an apt representative of Bernie's campaign, a nationally popular surrogate of Bernie's campaign, nominate him at the convention. And that's exactly what AOC was. That's exactly what AOC did. You know? I just think it's funny they're infighting. Who's infighting? Who specifically? I mean, everyone infights. That's what happens when you disagree with people that you form coalitions with. Are you referring to the Democratic establishment? Are you referring to the left? Are you referring to, like, everyone left of the right? Are you referring to Democrats and leftists? Can't believe I'm gangbanging with Bigfoot. There are disagreements going on, and there is some infighting. I would say that probably the disagreements are largely healthy. I think that there needs to be a constant element of the left and of Democratic voters basically saying that the public option is not enough, if only to make sure that the Biden camp doesn't go overboard listening to, you know, grifter conservatives who are basically trying to push the Democratic Party into a neocon position. So, like, that can come off as infighting, but the truth is, Jesus. It just seemed like it from AOC yesterday. I mean, there's fighting between NBC News and AOC supporters, but that's largely because NBC News is extremely disingenuous and, quite frankly, disgusting. Representative of the media establishment when it comes to, especially to AOC in particular, even more so than with Bernie, but definitely with Bernie. I was surprised to see them pick Kamala Harris as VP. It very possibly, I'm not trying to be contrarian or anything. Like, Kamala Harris is possibly the least surprising vice presidential pick that I could think of. A black woman, just like he leaned very hard toward picking, who is a member of the political establishment, but was to the left of Joe Biden in the presidential race. Seems... Yeah, I probably would have bet about 70% it was going to be Kamala Harris. With, like, you know, just a desperate hope that it was going to be Elizabeth Warren. Weird ass creature. But I was pretty sure it was going to be Kamala. I was thinking maybe Tammy Baldwin or Elizabeth Warren, but it wasn't going to be Stacey Abrams. I think it was pretty clear that Stacey Abrams was too... Stacey Abrams didn't have the populist appeal, or no, the national appeal, really, in order to justify picking. At least Kamala Harris, like, Kamala Harris has the K-Hive on her side, and the... Like, it's basically like you get Bernie's, like, terminally online presence kind of standing for Joe Biden, and that was a big thing. But without the anti-establishment accountability. And then you also get the diversity component that Biden vowed to do, of picking a woman, and at that a woman of color. Nope, that's not happening again. And that's not happening again. No one is excited for Kamala VP, while her opponents are more excited than her own party. That's just patently untrue. You have to be very, very out of touch to believe that. Hold on. Yeah, that's just not true. I wish it were a little bit. I wish people were less excited by Kamala Harris. I don't know. I guess I don't, because I want Trump to lose. I'll try to explain. If I remember right, she was grilling Barr and Kavanaugh, and she went hard on impeachment and then ran for president. Yeah, that's why she was a good pick, because she has been going hard on Trump for 2 years. She motivates the anti-Trump vote. That's what this entire election is about. It's about mobilizing the anti-Trump vote versus mobilizing the pro-Trump vote. Now, the pro-Trump vote is operating at like a massive. There's a much higher floor on the pro-Trump vote, and then there's a much lower ceiling on the pro-Trump vote. Impeachment was fake, though. No, it wasn't. Impeachment was not fake. Impeachment was very real. There was an impeachment. There's an impeachment vote. It was the same thing. It was a mobilizing of anti-Trump sentiment against purple state Republican senators. That was the entire political value of impeachment. The substance of impeachment was absolutely real. Impeachment is going nuclear last resort. It's not it's not a last resort. It is literally, impeachment is something you do when the president has committed crimes in office that you're supposed to do to remove the president from power. Saying it's a nuclear option is very disingenuous. Just because people don't impeach except when the president has committed crimes, guess what? The president has committed multiple crimes. The whole point of impeachment is, so yeah, impeachment is not a last resort. Impeachment is literally what you do when the president commits crimes while in office. Trump committed crimes while in office, so they impeached him. They also used it as a political tool, and Susan Collins is probably going to lose her seat as a result of her having to vote to acquit Donald Trump. Because if she voted to impeach Donald Trump, she was going to get primaried. If she voted to acquit Donald Trump, she was going to lose her seat. And she's probably going to lose her seat because most of the people in her state don't like Trump. And she was constantly towing the line of like, am I for Trump or against him? She was very, very, very good at towing that line until impeachment came along and she had to take a side. No, I'm talking about Susan Collins. Susan Collins is not VP. Kamala Harris has been very consistent on being anti-Trump. So impeachment is not a last resort. Impeachment, you shouldn't do it unless the president has done something to warrant impeachment. And Trump did multiple things to warrant impeachment. They overplayed their hand many times, and now they seem desperate. There is absolutely, you have to be like genuinely detached from reality to think Democrats seem desperate right now. Literally, politically, everything is going in Democrats' favor. That doesn't mean they're incapable of throwing this election. But you know who seems desperate? Someone who's trying to dismantle the USPS in order to suppress voter turnout in an election. He literally admitted to this. You know who seems desperate is trying to latch on to a corruption, to any kind of corruption lens. Every single Trump ad comes off super desperate. I mean, you can spam emotes all you want. Unfortunately, so I'm just going to pause here and point out for context that this person was spamming happy emotes after every single message that they sent, and their messages were getting meaner and meaner spirited. So I may have gone a little bit harder on them than if I hadn't been streaming for 3 hours already, because I was getting a bit annoyed. There's a reason Trump is down 5-6 points, and there's a reason that Biden gains continues to stay at or above 50%, and why Trump is constantly barely orbiting between 40 and 45%. Impeachment is death the last resort and nuclear. Impeachment is not nuclear. Impeachment is a measured response to a president committing crimes in office and abusing power. Impeachment has always been a tool against abuse of power. Trump abuses his power. If you don't agree on that, you're not living in reality. So, they crazy. I'm sorry, you just don't know what you're talking about. You genuinely don't know what you're talking about. Listen, no one hates the Democratic Party more than I do, but unfortunately, this is very empowering for the Democratic Party. They are sitting pretty comfortable right now, maybe too comfortable for my comfort. They crazy to do nuclear. So the implication of the term nuclear is that you are choosing to do something, that you are choosing to exercise an option that is going to do significant harm to whatever, the economy, the country, and that's why you go nuclear. Impeachment doesn't harm anyone. It's a dedication of resources and time, but like there's you can argue that there's not really a particular trade-off to going for impeachment at any given time. So it's not nuclear because there are no significant side effects of going for impeachment. So you can't call it a nuclear option. And you can't even say it's a last resort because every single person who knows anything about politics knew that impeachment wasn't going to be convicted, that the entire purpose of impeachment was political posturing to lose a couple of purple state senators their seats. It does do harm, dude, because now the next impeachment will be hampered and not taken seriously. No, like just because 51 Republican senators all decided that they are going to stand on the side of the most corrupt president in modern history. Just because they chose to do that does not hamper the next impeachment. It just shows how corrupt the Republican Party is. They are mocking impeaching a president. No, they're not. The people who are mocking impeaching a president are the senators who knew that Trump is corrupt and voted to acquit him. It's not like you're not operating in reality. You just don't understand the political process if you think that impeachment harmed the impeachment process. That if you think that knowing that senators are going to vote to acquit a president and forcing them to make that corrupt acquittal vote is mocking the process, you don't understand why the process exists. So like, yeah. And I wish people were less excited about Kamala on a more larger, like, I don't like the stand culture around her, but you know, it was a very predictable and probably very smart choice for VP because she activates a certain type of voter that is as passionate as Bernie's voters, but more amenable to Biden's campaign platform and is a lot more a cult of personality. So like the K-Hive is like Bernie's diehard voters in that they hate anyone who opposes their candidate. But the difference is Bernie's voters are not loyal to him if he does things that they disagree with. They're loyal to the movement. The K-Hive is loyal to Kamala Harris. So if Biden picked Bernie as his VP, it would convert a lot lower percentage of Bernie's voters than if he picked Kamala, that she's going to convert a lot more of her voters to supporting him. I didn't see it as smart. I was surprised. I was thoroughly unsurprised by it. He is running on an anti-Trump message. He's not going for Trump voters. He's going for people who want to see Trump out of office and getting them to the polls. And Kamala Harris is someone who activates voters who want to see Trump out of office. And she has a very, very, very loyal supporter base that he converted to a much larger extent than he ever could have with Bernie. But ultimately, like, we fundamentally view impeachment differently because, like, you've argued that because a bunch of senators voted to protect Trump's corruption, that impeachment itself should not have been used. But no, you have to force those senators to put their money where their mouth is, and they're going to be held. Dude, not going for Trump voters? Then why are they showing Colin Powell? Do you think Colin Powell draws Trump voters? And McCain? They smeared McCain hard when they ran against Obama. Who smeared McCain? Democrats? This was, you're talking about a 14-year-old election. Do you think that McCain is going to reach Trump voters? Do you think that Trump voters and Republicans are the same people? Like, hold on. You understand the difference between a Republican voter and a Trump voter, right? That there is a heavy element of the Republican Party that despises Trump and is looking for a reason to vote him out of office. And that is the entire pitch of the Biden campaign, is that he is amenable to Republican voters. That's why Cindy McCain was given speaking time. That's why Colin Powell was given speaking time. People who genuinely have sanitized George Bush's image and John McCain's image in the center and center right. Right, I know he's polarizing, haha. You mean Trump? Yes, Trump is polarizing because Trump is like he is a literal open neo-fascist. Like, yes, when you're openly fascist, you're going to be pretty polarizing. Like the guy is an openly admitted fascist. He wants to destroy the postal service so that they cannot deliver mail-in votes. Like he wants to systematically repress voters, and he wants to ban certain kinds of people from the country. And he has made his entire campaign trafficking in nativist xenophobic rhetoric. Like he hits all of the points of a fascist, at least of a proto-fascist, and like definitely the enabling of fascistic structures because conservative and right-wing authoritarians are using his administration to build the power in order to execute their experiment. So, like, yeah, when you're like that, you're going to be polarizing. The media smeared McCain and voted for not McCain is what I was saying. The media didn't really smear McCain. Not really. Were there times that they reported on McCain disfavorably? Like when McCain makes a comment that the fundamentals of our economy are sound, I don't know. It sounds like McCain's kind of smearing himself in the middle of the biggest recession since World War II. Now, did they over-report on McCain saying the fundamentals of our economy are sound? Yeah, sure. And they did it in a way that was damaging to McCain. Is that a smear? Absolutely not. They reported on something completely legitimate. It was definitely a gaffe. It was definitely something he shouldn't have done. It was a political error in judgment. A smear implies that like they have an agenda to like to attack a certain candidate, which they don't. They have an agenda for ratings. All right, and McCain was good. Fundamentals of our economy are sound was good ratings. If not for that, and now they got him at the DNC. Okay, listen, at this point, yes, I probably could have read the chat more charitably, thought, of course, what my chatter meant by they got McCain at the DNC was they got Cindy McCain speaking on John's behalf at the DNC. But I was really tired. It had been 3 hours, and this person had given me all sorts of reasons to think that they're just another Trump troll. So I thought, let's read it as unfavorably as possible and have a little fun with them. You know they don't have John McCain at the DNC, right? You know that John McCain died like 2 years ago. Sorry, I'm just waiting for your response. I just want to make sure that you're aware that John McCain is dead. They didn't get him at the DNC. You just said they got him at the DNC. That's okay. Take some time to Google it. Take some time to Google it because it wasn't John McCain speaking at the DNC. It was somebody else speaking at the DNC. You still haven't said who it was. You haven't corrected your initial error. They didn't get him at the DNC. Whom did they get at the DNC? It's all right. Google exists. You can work on it. Take your time. You clearly have you have a decent WPM. You're able to type. They got him as in using his person to support Biden. No, that's not even what they did. Yes, Biden didn't even speak about John McCain particularly. It was somebody else who spoke about Biden's connection to John McCain. But okay, I guess you're going to do the mental gymnastics of like clearly, obviously, what I meant is they used this person to, listen. If you weren't aware that John McCain was dead and you read the headlines and you thought that it was John McCain himself speaking at the DNC, that is an error that a person can make. I don't expect everyone to know everything about politics. It's just that when you're making a lot of really definitive statements and you're not aware of basic facts, like John McCain is not alive and wasn't able to speak at the DNC last night, it kind of calls into question your credibility on these issues. So I would like you to let me know how they use John McCain as a supporting point for Biden and be a little more particular with your words than they got him at the DNC. Because they got him at the DNC pretty explicitly means that they had John McCain speak at the DNC and they did not have John McCain speak at the DNC. Because John McCain was far not alive enough to speak at the DNC. So this is a practice in precision of speech. You know, this is something I've had to particularly learn because I have a platform now, however public it is. I'm only talking to one or two people at a time, small as it is, but still, I have a platform and I have to use it. I have to be a little bit careful in how I choose my words. And as someone who basically puts my foot in my mouth every time I speak, I do take this thing kind of seriously. So whom did they get at the DNC? I'd like you to answer that question. Unless you consider not looking things up to be a point of pride, in which case I can't really help you. I have looked up 5 or 6 different claims that I have made since I started this stream in the past 2 hours and 36 minutes. I have used Google to verify multiple claims because I think that you should be a little bit more careful about the things you say. Okay, you don't want to answer, that's okay. I'm not going to give the answer for you, so you're free to look that up. Most people that watch my channel already know who spoke at the DNC, so I don't really need to worry about them. I know who spoke at the DNC. A quick Google search will tell you who spoke at the DNC. I would like you to answer that question so that we can work on the basic practice of verifying our facts. But if you don't want to, that's okay. You know, I'm not your parent, so I can't really force you to do that. Anyway, the point is, like, Kamala Harris is a good political pick. You know, I'm not a fan of her. I wish that he had chosen Warren. It would have been better for my movement. I wish he had chosen Tammy Baldwin. It would have been better for my movement. But I understand why he chose Kamala, and I'm not going to, like, fault him for that, right? But yeah, I know some on the right don't like him. At the same time, I hear peeps are leaving the DNC because of reasons. What? I'm not even sure what you're talking about. Are you saying, let's make a good faith effort. I'm sorry. Okay. You're saying some on the right don't like Trump. At the same time, you hear people are leaving the DNC because of reasons. Leaving the Democratic Party because of reasons. I'm interested to hear I'm interested to hear your sources on how strong the exodus from the Democratic Party is. It sounds like something you would hear from Breitbart or InfoWars or, like, Project Veritas, totally unsourced. It's been it's been a big right-wing representation in my chat today. Like to see it. Like to see it. It's funny because, like, the audience that I consider myself to reach is typically more left-leaning. Is typically, like, Democratic voters who have issues with the left that I try to bridge, and then leftists who have issues voting for Joe Biden. So it's definitely much more entertaining to have right-wingers that I can just kind of not worry about dialectical effectiveness with and just kind of let loose and meme out. It's a great stress reliever, to be honest. It is. You know what? I really get what Destiny talks about when he says that, like, he just wants to go back to dumping on the right wing because it's a lot less stressful for him. Because, like, the problem with lefties and with Democratic voters is there's a lot of stuff that we agree on, and focusing on the stuff we disagree on is very difficult. With right-wingers, it's just like, yeah, everything you believe is largely bunk, and, you know, buying into conspiracy theories and listening to people like Project Veritas makes it a lot easier to just say, like, there's nothing you and I will ever find allyship on, and I'm totally fine burning this bridge that I just discovered. But more on that later. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to check back later this week or next. I'm going to be posting more from this very conversation with this very same person. A lot more entertaining content to come. If you enjoy the video and want to see more content, the best way you can support the channel is to like and click that subscribe button below for future videos. And if you want to join the discussion live, I stream live to Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Feel free to join in there. Otherwise, stay tuned for future videos. Thanks so much for watching.